Immigrant, minority woman reveals what the Dem-led anti-Kavanaugh movement has forced her to do. As the Senate is set to confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court Saturday, it appears that the well-orchestrated attempt to derail his nomination has backfired. Writing in a new essay for the Federalist, Adele Scalia, wife of Christopher Scalia, the son of the late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, said she now supports Republicans after witnessing the embarrassing charade that sought to take down Kavanaugh. What did she say? Scalia wrote, "I have become a unicorn. My metamorphosis didn't require a magic spell or potion, or even a trip to a well-reviewed plastic surgeon to add a horn to my head. All it took was Democrats' treatment of Brett Kavanaugh over the last few weeks to turn me into that elusive creature, a minority, immigrant woman who supports Republicans." Scalia said some might assume she is Republican because of the family she married into, but she made it clear she is not. In fact, she wrote that she sympathizes strongly with Democratic perspectives. Now, however, Scalia said her eyes have been opened, and she sees that Democrats are not who they claim to be. The party that established itself as a champion for the voiceless, powerless, and wrongfully accused, betrayed its values and launched a vicious attack on Kavanaugh that left him voiceless, powerless, and completely incapable of defending himself, Scalia wrote. Against all logic and good faith, they released uncorroborated allegations of sexual misconduct to the public, counting on the backdrop of the Me Too movement to make them that much harder to criticize or ignore, she added. I still cannot reconcile these actions with the social and criminal justice reform platforms that Democrats campaign on. In fact, not only is the orchestrated Kavanaugh takedown not representative of supposed democratic values, Scalia pointed out the left's hypocrisy on toxic masculinity. She said the left has strongly condemned men in general, and straight white men in particular, for practicing toxic masculinity, to which they argue that men should be vulnerable and display their emotion. But showing emotion is something Democrats condemned Kavanaugh for, arguing it shows he doesn't have the temperament to be a Supreme Court justice. He was accused of putting on a performance. They asked what reason he, a man who was defending himself against unproven allegations of sexual assault and gang rape, whose family had been threatened and whose name had been eternally tarnished, had to cry. That is gaslighting at its most egregious, from the most vocal opponents of the sort of manipulation that is usually perpetrated against women, Scalia wrote. Scalia also panned the Democratic Party for essentially using Christine Blasey Ford, the woman who initially accused Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct, as a pawn in their anti-Kavanaugh scheme. She wrote, "What's worse is that to achieve all of this the left has gladly used a vulnerable woman against her wishes. Christine Blasey Ford had no intention or desire to ever become a household name. But when their initial attempts to derail Kavanaugh's nomination failed and it seemed all but certain that he would be confirmed to the court, Democrats fed Ford to the wolves. Only the wolves turned out to be sheep. I have seen countless Republicans defending and showing empathy for Ford on the news, giving her the benefit of the doubt on social media. By contrast, I have seen nothing of the sort for Kavanaugh from Democrats." Scalia later reiterated that witnessing the events of the last month has opened her eyes to the truth. These events opened my eyes to the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. It's actually a very exclusive club that wants me as a member based solely on stereotypes of who I am supposed to be. The core values they tout do not apply to everyone, as Kavanaugh can testify, but only to a very small, very specific subset of people who tick certain boxes or support them in their political agenda, she wrote.